All right, give me Don in Minnesota. Don, welcome to the Pat and Stu Show. Are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay, Don, you made a phone call today.
Yes, I did.
Is this accurate?
Yes, it is. Absolutely accurate.
Okay. Now,
I just got brave and decided to do some research and say, I wonder what's going on here. And all of a sudden, a number popped up for me, and I said, "I'll be darned. Maybe I'll give it a try. Let me see if it'll work."
Okay.
I thought, well, maybe I'll just go to an office number or something, but.
You could get a radio producer job.
Say what?
You could get a radio producer job.
Okay, well, let's let people in here. You made a phone call to who?
Alexander Carl.
Alexander Carl is the writer for the Salt Lake Tribune who was bashing Glenn and calling him a Nazi sympathizer.
Yes.
Because of his museum. Now, I would not encourage anyone else to do this. Please do not. I'm not kidding about it. I'm not trying to... Look, we appreciate people backing us up. We really do. We really do. And feel free to write stuff and tell the truth online, everything else. I would strongly discourage people to call her at her residence. That's not what we want in any way.
She thought I should do the same thing. She wasn't excited.
No, I'm sure she was not excited. But you actually got her on the phone?
Well, why does she have a number?
Okay, so tell me what happened.
Okay, so I called her, and first of all, my brother and I both came out to Man on the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
My brother's from North Carolina. I'm from Minnesota, and we jumped in a car from my house and headed out and came back. Anyway, I got on the phone with Alexandra Carl, and she answered the phone, hello, and I said, I'm just curious.
Wait, did you say hello back? Did you?
Yes.
Did you introduce yourself? Was it a polite conversation?
Yes, I did. I told her I'm Don from Minnesota. That's what I told. Yeah, I told her that.
Okay, now Don, let me ask you this before you get into the rest of your story. Were you polite? Were you kind? We don't want anyone to be mean and yell at people.
We don't want you to say, "Hey, what are you doing answering the phone? Why don't you have a job?"
Right?
Yeah.
Were you cool?
I did not. No, I was very polite.
Okay.
My wife was sitting right next to me, and she attributes to that.
Okay, good.
I will acknowledge that.
Okay, good. So you got her on the phone, and you said what to her?
Well, I asked her if she actually attended the museum in Beck's, at the Americana Hotel.
Yeah.
America Hotel. And she said I did not attend it actually myself. And I said, well.
She said she did not attend the museum herself?
Right.
She did not attend, but she had secondhand information that she provided in her article.
That is unreal. She didn't even go?
She overheard a conversation about it.
If that's true, you're telling me she told you herself she did not even go to this museum, and she wrote this article, and the Salt Lake Tribune printed it?
Yes.
That is unbelievable. Glenn actually mentioned that. I don't even think she went to the museum. I couldn't believe that the Salt Lake Tribune would actually run a story with someone who wasn't even there to see what she was talking about. But you're telling me she told you, in her own words, told you she did not actually go to this museum.
That's right. And I asked her, I brought to her attention the fact that the venue was at the USANA. And she said, "Well, I didn't cover the USANA. I did not. I was strictly covering the historical items at the museum."
Well, of course, that's not true. In her own article, she wrote, she didn't say she went to the Man on the Moon, but she did say where it was. So, in essence, she did cover that event by writing about it in a newspaper.
Now, of course, they've changed in the article in the Tribune. Now they've changed the location to USANA instead of what was at the
Rio Tinto.
The Pinto, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct, Don, but they did change it to USANA, but they also went to the wrong event because the event that they went to was called Man on the Moon.
Right.
Man on the Moon, that's right, yes.
Now, what else did you tell her while you were on?
Well, I asked her, if you really want some factual information, why don't you go on YouTube? Both Barton and Beck have got actual videos of the tour that they conducted when they were at the, at the museum, and they can give you the actual historical events that they were portraying with the information. She said, "Thank you for that information, but please don't call me at home, and I don't understand why you had to call me at home." I said, "Because I found your number."
Thank you.
Now, I would, again, not encourage that behavior.
I would not encourage it.
No, and I think you have a really good motivation here, Don. But, you know what could happen, obviously. Too many people could call. And, look, she deserves to, I mean, in all honesty, deserves to never write another article in any publication ever again. At least, not because we're censoring her speech, it's because she does such a poor job at it that any self-respecting organization would not allow it because it looks so bad for them. I mean, she could write on her own personal blog or something. I mean, obviously, we're free to hear more of her insights since they're fantastic.
Really, I mean, as bad as the first article was, and then they went back and updated it, and it still was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can say...
A respectable organization, the Salt Lake City Tribune, may not be.
Yeah, they're clearly not. I am really... curious here because they have the Salt Lake Tribune did make the correction saying it's now USANA Amphitheater, which is where the event actually took place. They have not yet corrected the title of the event. They have not yet corrected the fact that all of the artifacts that she lists do not actually belong to Glenn Beck or his private collection. With the exception of one or two of the 7 or 8 she actually writes there. And, of course, there's a lot of a horrible opinion and accusation about Glenn being a Nazi sympathizer, which is completely, beyond the pale and honestly really offensive, particularly to the, several major Zionist organizations that have said Glenn is the defender of Israel. But that's very interesting, Don, and I do appreciate you having our back there.
Yes.
And I do appreciate you treating her with respect. Of course,
I did, yes.
There is no respect coming the other direction, the way Alexandra treated Glenn. There was not 1 ounce of respect, nor apparently information or existence at the event she was talking about.
Well, that's what makes us better.
Yeah. I
was flabbergasted when she actually admitted that to me.
Yeah, that was. I think you may have the world's only admission of that one because I don't think I don't think that one's coming out again. Yeah. I got to believe that if we get her on the phone, she is not going to admit that to our face.
No, I don't think so.
But thank you very much, Donna. That's really interesting. Hold on for a second. Let's get your information in case the guys want to talk to you tomorrow because I have a feeling they might. But again, and I thank you, Don. I appreciate the call, man. Don't call her at home. We appreciate you guys having our back, but because what will happen, of course, is the media will be like, Glenn Beck tells his audience to call and threaten a kindergarten teacher. Right. And that's not going to be helpful. I know Don didn't threaten, but they will say, of course, that happened, and it's I don't want to hear it. This is not a kindergarten teacher. This is someone who's writing in a major newspaper and lying constantly. Right. Now, she did not ever say, I guess, and Glenn maybe picked this up. I guess she never says she was there, although she certainly indicates. No,
she never said she was there, and some of the way that she talks about some of the things made it just kind of appear that she might not have been there. I don't know, just the way... this is how I can look at it, but it was just the way it sounded.
Yeah. She didn't. I will say though, she talks about. I mean, she obviously knows somebody who was there, or she's looked at the video online or something because she's describing loosely the situation. Yeah. But there's a giveaway of she says there's 2 rooms. Well, there were 2 rooms that we rented. This is why I initially thought she was telling the truth. But when you really look at what she said one room had. Certain artifacts, and the other room had Glenn Beck's artifacts.
Right.
Well, that definitely isn't true. The one room had some radio stuff and was more of an entryway. The other room was split into 2 areas.
Right.
So she, not being there, didn't realize it was. She thought it was 2 rooms when in reality it was just split. It was one room, and anyone who was there could easily tell that. So that's a great. I don't know how Glenn picked that up, but that is a. That is a great pickup, and it looks like it's true. This is the initial quote here, by the way. Earlier this month, Glenn Beck rented several rooms, which is not true. I mean, it wasn't several, in downtown Salt Lake City at Grand America Hotel to display an Independence Through History exhibition. This accompanied the Man on the Moon rally, which took place just a few miles away at the Rio Tinto Center, which is a soccer stadium and not where we did the event at all. And again,
that's so great.
And it's... Look, the Salt Lake Tribune isn't going to bother answering any of your calls because they don't care. I mean, they obviously have an agenda to make Glenn look bad. that is the way they operate, and it's a long-standing tradition for the newspaper. But it's interesting, not necessarily the problem here is not Alexandra Carl. Here's a woman who, whatever, she teaches kindergarten. She's obviously not particularly, it's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And, she's out there doing her best to, she thinks smearing Glenn is good because she sees it on MSNBC and she sees it in the Salt Lake Tribune. And she feels like, I can be a part of this. I'll come up with a new angle to attack him. And, that's fine. It's what people do. People do it usually on their own personal Twitter accounts or their own personal Facebook accounts. It's the Salt Lake Tribune that allowed her to do that sloppily in their paper. I mean, they to this moment, I just refreshed it to check. To this moment, the name of the show is still wrong. Fixed. I mean, that's not an Alexandra Carl issue at this point.
No, it is not.
After several days, this is an issue where the Salt Lake Tribune should be completely embarrassed of themselves.
Correct.
And honestly, the proper thing here is not to go through and correct every single thing. It should be retracted.
Gone away.
Just make it. Come on. What you do. Let me help you out, Salt Lake Tribune. You even keep the text up there, and you say, because of the numerous factual inaccuracies, the Salt Lake Tribune has retracted this article. We leave it here for reference. That's because you don't want to hide it. You don't want to say like, oh, well, we're not going to show anyone our mistakes. It's okay to show people mistakes, and people make them. But what the proper thing to do with this many inaccuracies is to just pull the whole thing off and just say, we don't stand by it. They do this with scientific studies all the time. Sometimes people, Jeffy's a scientist, and Jeffy is obviously shady. He has no morals. He steals a paper from someone else, or he falsifies research. It gets published in a journal, and the journal comes back and says, look, we published this paper. We're retracting this paper. You could still read it. We're not trying to hide it, but we realize now these mistakes were made, and we don't stand by the paper anymore. It's an easy way to do it, an easy way. And, look, we've had, I think everybody's had this. We've come out before and said we've made mistakes. I've read stories on The Blaze. I'm like, I don't think this is right. And I write over to them and say, I think we should correct this. There's absolutely no spirit of that going on at the Salt Lake Tribune.